So it actually takes information from one platform to another. So it is taking information from VS Code to Business Central so that they can interact with each other, right? And now app.json file and launch.json file. App.json file tells about the application. Launch.json file tells about the platform where we are deploying our extension. So these are the places. This is the place. See, launch.json published to local server. So for local server, these are the settings: name, type, request, server, server instance, authentication that I already told you, right? Schema update mode also told you. Right, it specify the data synchronization mode when you publish an extension to the development service. Right, now for cloud, we have this name, type, request always be same. The thing that changes is the server name, server instance, not the server instance. It should be the cloud sandbox. So you can see the name is environment type and environment name. The only thing that we need to change is environment name, right? And then we have the app.json file in which we have the IDs. I believe servers are asking for this ID, right? So we have IDs that are provided to us by CSV cloud service provider, right? And in that ID range only we can create our objects, right? So there are ID ranges. I told you, let me just write it again. So for 129999, this ID range is saved for Microsoft only. And only Microsoft can create objects ranging from this range. Then we have this ID, right? Microsoft can only create the project, but for the objects for the localized version, right? And then we have this. This is for us, for people who are customizing Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So this is for customers. They can create it. They can create any objects lying between these ranges. So for these ranges, we need to buy it from our CSP, right? That we want certain ranges. As you pay, you will get the ranges. And with this, you can create your extensions. The more ranges you have, the more objects you can create, right? So after that, what I was telling you, yeah. So two objects can have same ID, right? Suppose a page is there and a table is there, they can have the ID 50101. They can have it. They are still different because the type is different. But same object cannot have same ID. So if table is there and another table is there, I cannot give it the same ID. So this is about the ID, right? So I believe that was the question. I'm sorry if I was not able to understand it previously. And this is about the launch.json file. Now we have the team development feature. This is the last topic of this module. And with that, we will be done with the first module. And then after the break, we will start our next module, right? That is the tables, the most important part of any of the Business Central teaching that you will take. Tables are the most important part. We will start that after the break. So for this team development feature, we have the Git. So Git is the inbuilt source control software that we have into our Visual Studio Code. Why do we source control the system? Suppose multiple developers are working, right? And if you want to you want to work in conjunction, you want to see what other people have done. You want to push your changes to the whole software, right? You do not want to do any ambiguity. So for that we use source control. So for the one is Git, the other is Visual Studio Team Foundation Server. So Git is inbuilt in Visual Studio Code. So for that, I have a really good video. Let me just show you that video. And with that, you can know that how to install Git into your system, right? And then how to make it running. So let me just play this video for you. And please tell me if that video sound is coming or not. In the Q&A, you can write. Okay. Is it coming? The audio? You can write in the Q&A if the audio is coming. Yes, we will get a break at 1. Can you any replies are coming if the audio is coming or not? No. Okay. So let me just share my screen again. Now tell me if the audio is coming or
This
not.
video is suited for someone who knows what Git is.
Okay. Thank you, Anandita. Okay. Let's just start.
But is not really comfortable in the terminal and would like to use.
I'll start this. Start.
Hi there, it's Peter here again, the guy who hates tomatoes. But
Give me 1 minute.
hi there, it's Peter here again, the guy who hates tomatoes but loves front-end development. In today's video, you will learn how to use Git inside of VS Code. This video is suited for someone who knows what Git is, but is not really comfortable in the terminal and would like to use the Git integration inside of VS Code. We'll start from scratch. I've got a blank VS Code window, and now I will drag one of my empty folders into it to create a project or working directory. To make it a Git repository, we would need to first check whether we have a Git installed. Okay, so try Git version
So you have to
on your
write
computer, and if something gets
in the
outputted,
terminal.
then you have Git installed. If not, then you would need to go to the Git website and download Git for your operating system. Now you have to set your name and email in the Git config. The command is git config -- global, and then user.name to set your name and user.email to set your email. If you've already configured Git in the past, then you probably don't have to do this step, but I'm just stating it here for the people that are starting really from scratch. To check whether you have your name and email already set up in the Git config, simply type in -- list. You should be able to see the email and name in the config, and to quit the view, type in colon and Q and hit enter. To initialize the Git repository, we can go to the Git tab, click on Initialize Repository. I'll delete the default commit message, or we could go to the terminal and type in git init. Okay, so both of them do the same thing. And if you go to the terminal and type in git init and a folder name, then this would create a subfolder with a new Git repository. Okay, so if I bring this inside of my Finder, you'll see that it creates a new folder, my project. So you can either create repository in the root or in the subfolder. I will delete my project. I won't need it for this tutorial. And then I'll open the git start folder again. By default, when you initialize Git repository, it creates a first branch, calls it a master, and that's what you find on most projects. So you can see it in the terminal, you can see it in the bottom left corner of VS Code, And that's how you also are able to switch between branches. So clicking on the master, I would be able to create a new branch or switch to another branch. Before we start interacting with branches, let's create a file and make our first commit. Now let's review some of the UI that we have available when we want to make a commit. Okay, so let's go back to the file. You see the U over here that marks the file as untracked. Next to it, we have the stage changes. Then we have the discard changes and open file. Okay, so if I click on the plus, we just staged our files, and the A means the file has been added. If I click on the minus, we did unstage our changes. Okay, so that's what the plus minus does. The icon on the left from it opens the file. So if I close it, this would open it for me. On the left, we have the git, the commit button, refresh, and again, all the other options. Okay, so let's do the commit all. Go back to the message, type in our first commit, and hit the tick. This will create the first commit. You can ignore my message over here. You probably don't have the same. And that's how you create your
Hey, I am going for a vacation where I'll be totally cut off from my business.
first commit. Okay, to check whether it's really committed, we can type in git log. That would give us the text output in the terminal. Or we could go to the timeline, the new VS Code timeline, and we'll see the first commit over here. Okay, so that's how you check the commit timeline inside of VS Code. Now we can make second set of changes. Again, stage them. This time we will use the commit amend. Okay, so this will take our changes and amend it to the previous commit. Instead of creating a new one, we have the option to change the commit message. And when we hit enter and go back to the timeline, we see the commit again with the changed message and both changes saved. That's how you use the commit all amend, and the sign off is the same as git all, but it adds little signature at the end of the commit message. To see all the other options in action, pushing and pulling, we firstly need to make sure we push this to a remote repository. Okay, at the moment this is only local, so no one else would be able to check this out and work on this project with us. And for that, we will need to go to GitHub and create a new blank repository. We will call it Git VS Code demo, and I'll leave everything empty. We'll make it public and hit create. Okay, that will create the repo, give us few options how to add code to it. And if we look carefully, you see that we've already done some of these steps. We only need to add the origin, add this URL as the origin of our repo, and then push our master to the origin. Okay, so we only need to do these two steps. It's the same as in push existing repository from command line. Okay, so these are the two steps we need to do. So let's copy firstly the first line, paste it in VS Code. This will add the remote to our repo and save it as an origin. We needed to do that as a first step. And the second one is we need to push our master branch and push it to this origin URL. Okay, so we also need to do the second step. And let's paste it in. Now we pushed the local master into the origin, and we should be up and running and be in sync of what the master on remote has and what we have locally. Okay, now they are both connected. As you can see, the icon over here also changed, and that is a good sign that our changes are published and they are available for someone else to pull. And also, if someone else pushes changes to the remote, we'll be able to pull them down. Now, if we go back to GitHub and refresh the page, we'll see that we have one branch with one commit. So that's the code we had originally only on our local. Now it's published. And let's go to the README file and edit it locally. So edit it on the server, and then we'll be able to push the changes or pull the changes back to our local. Okay, so I'm gonna add another line, save the file. Now the file on the server is modified, but our changes are currently not here. We need to pull them. Okay, so that's where the pull command becomes handy. If we click on it, we should be pulling the changes from the server and updating them in our local repo. Okay, so now we are now in sync. We pushing changes to remote, we pulling them to our local, and that's how you work with Git inside of VS Code. We've covered the workflow where you starting from scratch, firstly on your local and then pushing it to remote. But what if you get handed this Git repository URL and you just want to clone it and run it inside of VS Code? Okay, so that's what we will look at next. I've got a plain window of VS Code, no folder opened, and I've got an option to open a folder or clone a repository. Okay, so we'll do the clone repository, or I can press F1 and search for git clone in the menu. These will do the same. And if I hit enter, I will be asked for the repository URL. I will need to go back to GitHub or Bitbucket, whatever you use. Find the clone URL, come back to VS Code, paste it in. Then VS Code will ask you for a folder on your local where you want to store this. Okay, I will navigate to my desktop and YouTube Demos 2020 and hit select. As you can see, I'm doing it in the root folder of YouTube Demos because it will create the Git VS Code demo folder for me. Okay, so if I would create manually a folder here, it would check out the Git repository inside of that folder. Okay, so just be mindful of that, that it will create a folder for you and it will match the name of the repo. After it's done, you will be asked whether to open it or open in your window. I will click on open. And now we have the same code as before, but this time we did clone the repo instead of starting from scratch. Now let's have a look how we can create new branches in VS Code. We can go to the left bottom label of master, click on it, and we get the create new branch option from the drop-down menu. When we click on it, we can enter the name of the new branch, and that will create our new local branch. Now let's make a simple commit. I'm hitting Command and Enter to speed up the committing. And then we will click on this cloud icon. This will publish our local branch to the remote. Once it's done and we go back to GitHub, we will see the branch being published and someone else can check it out and work on it with us. Okay, so that's how you publish your local branches to the remote. And that's it all for today. Hope you've enjoyed this Git tutorial in.
Okay, so I guess this video was clear. So I got one of the questions, right? If we are watching video like this, why this live event is there, right? So if you watch the video, right, you cannot ask the question to that presenter, right? But you can ask the question to me. Ask the questions to me that, okay, we were watching that Git video. He was using that clone video, that he was using that command. Why are we using that command, right? So you can ask any of the question to me. I just like run that video so that it will be easily understandable to you. I can also showcase the demo to you, but I want to invite different contents in this course. Like if you're just understanding, if you're just listening to me, it would be very boring. That is why I just ran that video. If you think that okay, you do not want to watch that video, just tell me, right? And in that video, you cannot ask that question, or either you have to write the comments. Here, ask anything you want to ask me. I would just answer you. Okay. So let's just take a break of 1 hour would be sufficient, or 45 minutes would go. Let me start the timer. I think we can take a break of 45 minutes. And after that, we'll take 5 or 10 minutes break in between also. Right? So let me just start this 45 minutes break. And after that, we will start our topic tables. That's really very important. And how to create tables, what are the different things, what are different tables available. We'll all see that. Okay. So let me just start the timer and let me all see you after the break. Bye bye. Take care.